Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, and welcome to this new series which I'm going to record. And that new series is Active Directory Advanced Training on Server 2025. As you know, Windows Server 2025 is the latest version of Microsoft Windows Server operating system. So I have drafted some episodes on this. I will start with my trainer introduction and then we'll move towards all the episodes. And definitely I will try to add troubleshooting and other important content on this Active Directory. So the first one will start with Active Directory architecture and Active Directory components. Before I start, let's start my introduction. And my name is Kumar and I have 20 years of experience into Microsoft consulting and training domain. I deliver world-class trainings to worldwide customers, and if you have any question for me, feel free to reach out to trainer@LogicIT.IN or to my YouTube channel. So let's start with the first episode for today, that is AD architecture component. So this will be a little lengthy and long episode because we are covering all the Active Directory architecture components here. So first, let's start with AD definition. As per Microsoft, Active Directory is a directory services in Windows servers. It used to manage your users, computers, devices, and apply control access policies. So any authentication, authorization, access, it has to be done with the Active Directory. So I'll take a very simple example first. So in your company, you have an Active Directory server, and this is your official laptop joined with the domain. So when you log in, you normally log in with a name called John, and you put some your password and definitely join with abc.com. So whenever you log in, all the authentication has to be done by the Active Directory. So Active Directory is a key component in our IT infrastructure. So Active Directory key concepts. So first very important concept is directory services. So yes, Active Directory, when you configure, it's a server role and it configure a directory services, which is a centralized database, and the database name is ntds.dit. This is a database file once you configure Active Directory, and it includes your users, groups, devices, printers, everything. So that's the first component called directory services. When you configure Active Directory domain services, definitely you need a domain, which is your company name, example abc.com. So it's a logical grouping of Active Directory object like a company name, and it provides security boundaries and centralized administration. Next is domain controllers. So when you configure a Active Directory service on the server, it becomes a domain controller. So my company name is abc.com, and I'm going to configure this on one of the server. The server name is srv01. This is my host name, and my domain name is abc.com. So as soon as on a server you configure Active Directory service, it becomes a domain controller. And this domain controller we called as fully qualified domain name. Server name with a domain name. As a best practice, normally we have 2 domain controllers every office location. We will see some design best practices as well. Then we have very important AD objects, users, groups, computers, OUs, So we will see those objects as well. And the main job of Active Directory is to doing authentication, authorization, and access. It means who log in, what they can do, authorization, and which application they can access. Everything is done by Active Directory. So Active Directory is used for centralized user login, managing permissions, deploying softwares, enforcing security policies, and organization IT infrastructure for scalability and control. And on a later episodes, definitely we will talk about all these components in depth. Next is another important term. First is domain, we already discussed, abc.com, and the server where we configure Active Directory become a domain controller. Then we have site, root domain controller, additional domain controller. So what is site? So let's talk about root domain controller first. So I configure my first domain controller in a company, SRV01, which is in my location. My head office location is New York, USA, and we have 20,000 employees working in this location. So definitely one server or one domain controller is not enough. As a best practice, we should have 2 domain controllers. So definitely if one server crash, we should have a second domain controller, or 20,000 users can't be handled by one domain controller. So definitely you need another domain controller. The second domain controller, which is SRV02, is my additional domain controller. We called as ED replica server. So when a user log in, so they always try to log in. If one server is not available, second will be the right choice. So second server can use for load sharing, AD replica, and if primary is not there, secondary will work out. What is the best practice? AD design practice says if you have more than, so as a best practice, you should have 2 domain controllers per location, per site. Example, I have another location called Australia, and we have some 5,000 users here. So definitely we have some network connectivity. So when user log in, if you don't have a domain controller here, definitely authenticate from the nearest domain controller, which is my New York, USA. So, and there are some users complaining, that users is getting slow in log on request. So as a best practice, we should have a local domain controller per location, and authentication is done by the local domain controller, which is my SRV number 3. Another best practice, you should have more than one, so that one down, second will be there. So that's why the best practice, each location you should have 2 domain controllers. And definitely when your number of users are keep growing, you need to add more domain controllers per location. Now, what is site? So site is a actual physical location in my office where Active Directory server is configured. So example, I have another location which is in Bangalore, India. Only 100 users are there. It's an office location, but there is no AD server. So we cannot treat this Bangalore as a site. We can say only we have New York and Australia as a site. And again, we have a connectivity between New York and the Bangalore. It means any user belongs to Bangalore location, they can authenticate maybe upon from USA, maybe from Australia, depend upon some factors which we will see at later stage. But yes, if we don't have AD server here, definitely this is not a site. So site is an actual location where AD server is there, and definitely will define server application. I'll define a separate episode for the application component. Small meaning, any change when you do, suppose I change a password change. If you change a password or any change in the Active Directory object, it will replicate to all the Active Directory domain controllers in my company. Next is child domain. Domain trees, and then forest. So now example, I have a domain called abc.com, and I have two servers in this abc.com. I make another domain which is a child domain, us.abc.com. Any new domain name, use parent namespace, become a child. So child is like a administrative boundary. These have separate entity as separate Kerberos, separate group policy, separate everything. Now this company is having merger or open a new wing or new identity, something a different business identity. Say example, it's a advertisement company, adv.com, but part of the parent company ABC. So this we called as tree 1, this we called as tree 2, and definitely if we have a child domain of this tree, become us.advertisement.com. So all my tree, all my domain controllers, here also we have a 2 domain controllers for US, 2 domain controllers for ADV US, and 2 domain controllers for ADV. So here I can say we have domain 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 domains we have. Each domain, 2 domain controllers. So total is 8 domain controllers, 2 in each domain. So all my trees, and overall we have 2 trees, tree number 1 and tree number 2. So all my tree, all my root domain, the first domain controller of my forest root domain, all my child combined together make a forest. So this entire structure is called forest. So this tree also belongs to this forest because they follow same schema, same attributes. So in episode 9 we will see the FSMO concept. So don't worry, this series will be the very advanced one and will cover almost everything. And I have deployed 3 virtual machines, VMware machines, which I will explain in the next episode. AD01, AD02, and 1CL1. I will explain you how we do the IP and everything, and how to configure a domain controllers. I hope you enjoy this, the first episode, and please share the feedback and try to subscribe the channel as well. Thank you.